For the first time in the Pokemon series, we have a real-time action RPG, and with that brings many fundamental changes to its battle system. Let's get into it. First up, let's talk about movement. It's familiar and works as you expect, but there's a small twist. You're not just moving one character, you're moving your trainer and your Pokemon as a single unit. Moving the analog stick moves your character, and your active Pokemon will follow beside you. By the way, in order to bring out a Pokemon, press up on the D-pad, and pressing down on the D-pad brings them back to their Pokeball. Now let's engage in combat. When you target a Pokemon, whether it's a wild Pokemon or opposing trainer's Pokemon, your Pokemon will enter a focus state when holding the ZL button on your controller. While focused, this array of attacks will show up. Anyone who's played the Xenoblade series, particularly the second entry, will be familiar with this. The attacks shown correspond to the face buttons on your controller. Inside these commands, you'll see small icons. These are your type effectiveness symbols. A circle means that it's a neutral attack, a double circle means it's a super effective attack, triangle means it's a not very effective attack, and if you see an X icon, it means it will do no damage at all. Now here is the biggest shakeup to the battle system. Attacks now have cooldowns. Each move has its own cooldown timer, and here's my general rule of thumb. The stronger the move, the longer the downtime it has. Now here's an important note when it comes to attack cooldowns. Your Pokemon's speed stat directly affects the attack cooldown. Yes, you heard that correctly. Let's take this Fletchinder. They both have different speed stats, so let's compare how long it takes for each move to recharge. It's subtle, but in a game like this, every second counts, so keep that in mind when team building. This one's pretty quick. When you're in battle, just let go of the focus button, which is ZL, and press X to bring up your menu. You can use an item from there. When you use an item, you will now see a brand new meter showing on the bottom half of the screen. This is an item cooldown timer. It stops you from using any other healing items until the meter runs out, meaning you can't item spam in this game. Now moving on to the different types of moves, this game introduces attack properties, something that was totally missing in Legends Arceus. Some moves are melee attacks, requiring your Pokemon to be up close to land a hit. Others are range, which lets your Pokemon fire a projectile, and that projectile needs to hit the opposing Pokemon in order to connect. But it goes even deeper. Some moves like Earthquake can cause AoE or aerial effect damage, and some moves like Bubble Beam can cause piercing damage when there's multiple targets in a line. So pay attention to a move's properties and take advantage of them. Now moving on to status effects. Status effects have been completely reworked in order to fit the real-time combat system. Paralysis no longer occasionally stops the afflicted Pokemon from attacking, but rather it slows down its movement speed, making it more open to incoming attacks. Poison and Burn works just as you expect, dishing out damage over time, and just like the core series games, Burn also halves the strength of your physical attacks. Drowsy, which is returning from Legends Arceus, can either prolong your attack cooldowns or delay them from even starting. Confusion has been reworked so that instead of occasionally hitting itself in battle, now the Pokemon moves frantically, which makes it harder to position your Pokemon for offense or defense. And finally, the Frozen effect is probably the most devastating effect because your Pokemon cannot move at all until it thaws out or if you use an item to cure it. On to stat changes. Another fundamental change in Legends Z-A is how stat stages are applied mid-battle. In the turn-based games, you could stack stat changes on a 6-point plus or minus scale. However, in Z-A, there is just a single stage stat increase or decrease of a particular stat. So, for example, when Honedge uses Swords Dance, instead of getting +2 on its attack, it just gets a simple attack up effect. And now here's the other big change. Stat effects decay over time. Above the Pokemon, you will see the 6 different marks of their stats. And after a certain amount of time has passed, you'll see that icon indicator flicker. That's cue when the stat change is about to go away. This means you need to repeatedly set up your buffs and debuffs. But what happens if you activate a move that affects a stat that's already active? Going back to the example of Swords Dance. What if you already use Swords Dance when your attack stat is already raised? Instead of being stacked like in turn-based games, it will just prolong or extend the time you have that stat effective. So if you proc Swords Dance would just be extended instead. Onto plus moves and mega evolution. Plus moves serves as the replacement for the strong style, agile style moves introduced in Legends Arceus. Think of plus moves as essentially a damage multiplier. You can unlock plus moves by using the same move over and over again, aka mastering a move, or by exchanging Seeds of Mastery at the Justice Dojo. Now look at the bottom of the screen, that's your Mega Evolution gauge. In order to use a plus move, you will need at least 1 bar of this gauge filled. When you're ready, if you have a non-Mega Evolution Pokemon out on the field, press the plus icon on your controller, your plus moves will start to glow. Then just press the corresponding attack button, and there you go. You have now used a plus move, which in turn consumes 1 bar of your Mega Evolution gauge. Now it's time for Mega Evolution. You build up the Mega Evolution gauge by attacking Pokemon with basic attacks, or picking up Mega Shards during a Rogue Mega Pokemon battle. Once the gauge is full, and your Pokemon is holding its corresponding Mega Stone, click on the analog stick to Mega Evolve. Once your Pokemon is Mega Evolved, every move automatically becomes a plus move with no additional costs. But now the Mega Meter will decay over time, causing them to revert back to their original form once the gauge has been depleted. One pretty decent strategy I developed is that you can use this time to heal up your Mega Pokemon, pause the timer to switch out, build the meter back up, and then bring back the Mega Pokemon once the gauge is full and they're healed up. So now the Pokemon is at 100% strength. Alright, that's pretty much all the fundamentals covered. So here are some final rapid fire tips you should remember. Don't be afraid of letting go of the focus button. Distancing is crucial in this game. When you let go of the focus state, your Pokemon will run back to you. This is a pretty great way to dodge physical attacks. Tip number 2, don't just fill your moveset with big juggernaut moves, since you'll have way too much downtime. Make sure you have at least 1 quick move to keep battle pacing active while you recharge your heavy hitters. Remember, you can recall your Pokemon with a down on the D-pad at any moment. This is super handy in Rogue Mega battles when things get frantic on the field, since it's much easier to focus on one character's HP pool than 2. Moves like Protect and Double Team are great utility moves since they give you temporary protection while you're waiting for your attacks to charge back up. Especially Protect because it has been buffed in this game to no longer fail when used repeatedly. Also, keep a lookout for moves like Flip Turn or U-Turn. They deliver decent damage and they instantly recall your Pokemon back to your side when used, acting as both an attack and a dodge. And speaking of dodging, did you know that when you switch Pokemon out, there's a brief window of time where you are completely invincible? The timing is tight, but if you master this, you can dodge massive hits from opposing trainer Pokemon and even alpha Pokemon. And this is the last big one. Be mindful of your environment. There will be times where your attack will just miss because the enemy was behind a pillar, down a flight of stairs, or whatever. But this works both ways. If your Pokemon doesn't have a protection move, you can just use the environment to your advantage and move your Pokemon behind a big rock, or a crate, or a cart to dodge incoming attacks. This is super important tech, especially early on in the game when you're working your way up through the ranks of the battle zones. Alright, that is pretty much everything I've learned from my time playing Pokémon Legends Z-A, and now you know the fundamentals of combat. That's gonna be it for today, y'all. Take care.